All right, let's get to our morning business report now. Multiple new developments driving concerns about rising prices.
A shortage of blue-collar workers could impact costs, and Walmart's warning about rising prices. Channel 3's Jane King live at the New York Stock Exchange with those stories and more. Jane, that's a lot to pack in.
I know, and it all has to do with rising prices, it feels like lately. Well, Walmart signals that it may have to raise prices to counter higher fuel costs. Now, sales at Walmart have been sluggish as their customers deal with higher gas prices, but also Walmart dealing with higher diesel costs, which drives up the cost to transport everything to and from stores. Now, execs at Walmart didn't say which products would go up in price or how much, but said if it would happen, it would be in the second half of the year. Well, the top boss at Ford warning about a shortage of blue-collar workers. Jim Farley says people who build homes and maintain infrastructure, manufacture products, and keep supply chains going are in short supply. And without those workers, he says, prices could go up on homes, car maintenance, and food. Well, master's degrees yielding fewer jobs than almost any time in the last 2 decades. A study from the Burning Glass Institute found some businesses even admit they're less interested in hiring candidates with advanced education. And then a separate study from Drexel University says 40% of employers don't plan to hire those with advanced degrees this year, up from 28% last year. The Dow did close at a record high yesterday. Traders have been and continue to be on high alert for any headlines out of Iran, especially going into the long holiday weekend. This morning, we're looking at a higher start so far. Live from the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Jane King. Back to you.